Anthony!
We're back again. I'm glad you're here, and we decided to do a couple of sounds that we think changed our lives.
Definitely did. We kind of agreed that Summer Madness by Kool The Gang must be one of those seminal that, you know, if you hear it once, you'll never forget it. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, it's so unique.
Yeah. So I first heard this particular track when I was very, very young. And of course it's, you know, so distinctive. Sounds like space, which is something that, right? So I was really looking for tracks like that. You know, I used to listen to, of course, Kraftwerk and Rockets, and this, when it came around, it was so different. Because if you think about it, it's a riff that has only one note.
Yeah.
Just across octaves. What a beautiful concept. So yeah, I mean, it became part of my vocabulary, you know, using wide glissandos on synthesizers. That influenced me. Check the loudness of the bass. It's coming, it's coming. Pull that fader down, right?
Says a lot with one note, doesn't it?
That's pretty eloquent.
Yeah. It reminds me of like on a Hammond organ when you're just bringing up the octave draw, you know, the octave drawbars basically, just holding one note, and but you get a nice, like sort of the space ageness is sort of that portamento, the slide, you know.
They captured that sort of sense of interstellar so well.
Yeah, well, that's why. I mean, there's really not even, you don't even have to say that much about it, because it just leaves you with a feeling and creates this texture. Changes every 4 beats, basically, right? Yeah. At a slow tempo. So we have the sound on the keyboard.
Well, I think that it's nice if we can play just one more time. So, because I have recreated this sound in the past, but of course, you know, as we were talking before, more stuff came out of it. You know, because the more you analyze it, the more it changes.
Always.
Right?
Yeah, always.
So, can we play it for one more second? So, firstly, there is this delay that, of course, combined with the glissando gives you this little delayed sound that is slightly off tune because it's following the gliss. So so that's one aspect of it. But then it's is it 2 sawtooths or is it 3 sawtooths? What do you think?
So it's often very difficult to tell when you have 2 oscillators or 3 oscillators. What I like to do is target one area, usually in the high range, and if it's targeted in the high range, if it's 2 oscillators, you can clearly hear the beating, because there's going to be cancellation when they get like perfectly in tune, and then as they get wider, you start to hear the wobble. So you'll start to hear this. If you have 3 oscillators, I can think I'm doing this sideways on the camera, right? 3 oscillators, you're getting, keep that finger down, you're getting this. So you don't really hear the beating, it's more like a chorus. So
like a flicking in parentheses.
Well, yeah, you know, and so that's what I listen for. Listen to the highest note that you can find, and hopefully if it's sustained, it's easier to hear. Because otherwise it's really hard on a low note. Like, is it 2 oscillators, is it 3 oscillators? That's how I do it.
Yeah. So why don't we start?
Okay, well, we're using an ARP 2600, and we did read on the liner notes that it was an ARP 2500. Okay, so we can make the sound on an ARP 2600 just fine, because we have 3 oscillators, 1, 2, 3. Right. They each have the ability to create a sawtooth wave. That's the first thing I would look for.
Let's listen to the first one.
Okay, so
can we remove the effect for a second so that we just listen to the pure sound?
Okay, so do the honors.
No, you do it.
F sharp. So what's happening? 1 oscillator in the filter, and you hear it.
We've put a little bit of envelope on the filter so that we get a little of that. Well,
yeah, the ADSR envelope generator is modulating the filter. So it's the same effect as if I were to patch it. ADSR envelope generator output into the control input of the filter. maximum amount, right? So I don't have to have the cable just because it's normaled on the ARP 2600, but I'm showing you what the patch really looks like. And then the shape, it's easy to see on an ARP 2600, which is one of the reasons I like teaching on it. Unlike knobs, you can't really see. Yeah. This graphically shows what's happening. There's a little bit of slow attack. The sound goes to this high decay and then decays down to the sustain level. And then there's a little bit of release time after I release the key. And not everyone really understands sustain is voltage. So an ADR envelope generator is basically pertaining to time, except for the sustain. It's not sustained time, it's sustained voltage. Yeah. So attack time to a slower decay time to the sustained voltage, and then when you release the key, release time.
That's right.
So that's basically what you have going, and then as Dr. Mix pointed out to me, a little bit of resonance, which I didn't hear initially. So you told me to go to the solo.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like if you can go to the solo, please. Is that now instead of hearing just long notes, now you have actual more intricate melody, and you can hear the entirety of the shape of the sound. Let's listen to it. Now you heard staccato for the first time, and the staccato wasn't ta 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 ta.
Exactly.
It was down 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 down.
Right, which I couldn't hear just on that. It's like,
how do you hear? Because you have to play staccato in order to
very smart. Because one note, you think, well, maybe that's just the speed of the envelope. When you play one note after the other, you have relative notes to hear, oh, it's not dancing very articulately. It's not it's not as articulate. So that was a big difference maker. And then, so we can bring up 3 oscillators now. So you'll hear, let's let you hear 2. I'll let you hear the beating. Go even higher. You hear that beating? Now if I add the 3rd oscillator, see how the beating just stopped? But it's just chorusing. So if I bring it down,
starts moving like that.
You hear it.
Yeah, I hear it.
If you bring in the 3rd oscillator,
it sort of balances itself.
It smooths it out. And that's how I listen for if it's a 2 oscillator sound or a 3 oscillator sound. I mean, I love 1 oscillator sounds a lot, and sometimes 2 oscillator sounds, I've talked about this, just bring it in a little bit so you have a primary oscillator. This sound, it's different because having all 3 at the same level helps regulate that pulsing.
The thing is also that, and this is something that I learned from you actually, you know, even when you have like a mono, like 1 oscillator sound, you can introduce movement inside of it. For example, by modulating the width of square wave.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of inner modulation, that's, I think that plays a big role in this very sound.
Oh yeah, nothing like it. I mean, you're getting that sort of effect because there's movement, it's like chorusing.
Yeah.
This is more like a string section where you have 3 violins, you know, and they chorus.
Yeah.
And then the resonance helps, it kind of thins out the sound a little, puts a little emphasis on the cutoff frequency. And again, when you hear the solo, like you pointed out, it talks a little bit more.
Yeah, because it goes on. You know, it's just a sort of nasally, more mid-ish, which I attribute to the resonance.
Right. And resonance can act like a high-pass filter because it takes off. If you're emphasizing the cutoff frequency and the cutoff frequency is high, then it's going to be reducing some of the lower frequencies, and it acts like a high-pass filter.
I'm starting to recognize the sound of the 2600 now, because it, you know, it can create this sort of more nasally, more aggressive sounds, which I love.
It can fit very nicely in. It's not always gigantic and fat.
Yeah.
You know, it's like articulate.
Yeah. Let's see, just going up 1 octave, what difference it makes to do it without the delay and with the delay. How's that?
And also with the portamento, because without it, let's go down to the right octave. That's no portamento. Now it gets good.
Also, there's a sort of, you hear that? Maybe because it's the 2 oscillators. Yeah. Because the 2 oscillators don't go there, you know, one arrives slightly earlier than the other, so you got the sort of, that sort of.
With analog stuff, nothing is exactly moving exactly. It's like real life, you know. 2 people walk side by side, but not exactly.
Not exactly.
You know, that's what's so good about it.
So can we try and put some delay now and let's listen to how it sounds, the same thing?
You hear the decay? And it's decaying still. Okay.
Okay, but doesn't it go one octave higher?
Well, I can't play it one octave higher because the 2600 is not a 5-octave keyboard like the ARP 20. This is the ARP 2600. The ARP 2500 that played the original sound is a 5-octave keyboard, so I can't play the higher octave.
So how do we do this?
I can't play the higher octave. It's, you know, it's 4-octave keyboard, but you really don't want to just end, the story can't end there. You got to try to figure it out. So,
and the story ends, we don't have a 2500,
Yeah.
goodbye, see you next time.
yeah,
It's not going to happen.
And the song's just not going to pay off without that. You need this, we got to go to the next galaxy, right? There's 4 galaxies. So what does it take to get pitch to go up or down? It takes voltage, because it's a voltage controlled instrument. Voltage control allows you to play a keyboard. Every step on a keyboard is just another voltage, a 1/12 of a volt per half step. An octave is a volt. So if I could give each oscillator, once I get up here, if I could give each oscillator an extra volt and slide it to 1 volt, I could do it. So I thought, okay, well, voltage processor, what's in there? There's a couple things that are normaled in there, and one of them is minus 10 volts. So if I take minus 10 volts through an inverter, I have positive 10 volts. That's how the instrument's laid out. Everything goes through an inverter. Positive 10 volts through an inverter is negative 10 volts. So I'm going to choose the negative 10 volts through an inverter, which is positive 10 volts, put it into a mult, make 3 of them, 1 to each oscillator. So each oscillator is going to go up 1 volt. So I'm sending 10 volts, but it's attenuated to 1 volt. And the reason you see the attenuator is kind of high.
Yeah.
Each one of these attenuators on an ARP 2600 gives you more possibility. So the first jack, you can get all 10 volts. So they're kind of stepped. The last one gives you the most control, but you can't get 10 volts. So it's right here is about 1 volt, 1 volt, 1 volt.
Yeah.
So when I slide this attenuator,
it's slightly over 1 volt now. It goes 13 semitones up, actually. So
We're
maybe
too
we have
high?
to touch that.
so then we have to touch them all.
That's it.
They're very touchy.
You look at it too hard, it goes out of tune. That's good.
You have such good hearing.
Almost.
Easier to hear down here.
Yeah.
Isn't that better?
Even down. Ah, that's it. That's it. You got it. Yep.
Now you're seeing how this is really done.
Yeah. Exactly. The more you put into the equation, now you're putting that processor into the equation. So now you have to recalibrate it another time. So the sound on a machine like that, you're constantly fighting the pitch, aren't you?
Yeah, you're working with what pitch is. It's a subjective thing. I mean, there's in tune, but there's also, musical. Yeah. Because a violinist, they don't have frets. Yeah. They're not perfect every time. It's just where it feels like the expressive part of the pitch. So I feel like that's what's happening. And I love getting my hands into that and feeling the pitch. Because when you just have a digital keyboard, it's just always like locked in, both oscillators. Even when it's detuned, it's just exactly the same. You notice how this thing is just, it dances.
Yeah, right. It dances. Shall we make it dance and play it from beginning to end?
With the track or by itself?
Shall we also add a little bit of reverb to it? Because I think I can perceive some reverb. Or maybe you could put some spring. Because probably they've used some spring.
So we can do a little spring. I'm going to take the output of the VCA, because we're going from the VCF to the VCA. so I can just, because I have the filter open, so if I don't attenuate it with the VCA, it's going to just ring, you know. So I'm going to take it straight out of the VCA and right into the reverb, so you get just a touch.
Oh, that's nice.
So you get a little.
That's it now. That's
Without it.
Oh, that.
It honks, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do it
you
more
want to
fun.
beatbox a little.
Let's listen to it one more time, and then let's play
I think
it.
we should.
Yeah. The final payoff. The one that makes you hit like and subscribe to both our channels.
Right. So we're gonna get that.
Yeah.
So you ready?
Yeah.
1,
Okay.
2, 3.
So
So I had the portamento on. See, this is all real stuff that happens. So the first thing you have to make sure is the portamento's off and you've established pitch. Now I turn the portamento on. I mean, this is really valuable, I think, because it happens in real life. So you have to think, like, when you just look at the instrument, what state is it in?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. And release. There you go.
Well done. The more you know.
Thank you for showing up. This is really fun whenever you're here.
Yeah, man.